Hi, I'm your host, Scott Birmingham, and this is an all-new segment of Foyer Review. Today we're going to be talking about Sanctum, the new movie from executive producer James Cameron. No known actors. That's right, no known actors, at least any American actors are in it, but very good. It at least makes you pay attention to the actual story, which in this case is fairly weak. The entrance to a cave is blocked off due to weather, so through a series of undercover caves, a small group tries to find their way out. That's the story. It's reminiscent of the 70s film The Poseidon Adventure, but not as interesting, and this too takes place mostly underwater. There are a few great 3D shots in the film, but worthy of a $10 ticket price? Not so much. There is drama, there is father and son tension, and there is some fairly good action, but it's all pretty predictable. There's not much more you can really do with the film. It would have been great to tie in more elements about cave diving and why folks do it. It's evident that it can be dangerous, so why do it? We never come to embrace or understand this passion for risking their lives or even having a better sense of appreciation for it. Suffice it to say, if you don't respect the water, the caverns, the equipment, or those with experience, you die. But we barely touch on this rather important concept. What I liked about the movie, well, a lot of it was shot in 3D, so it shows. But only so much you can do in and underwater, though. Dislike? 3D. Doesn't make for a better story. It's a wow factor. And lately, 3D films have plain forgotten to include those wow factor scenes or shots. It's becoming a 3D film in name only. Toss the 3D glasses, folks. There's nothing coming out at you except more previews of soon-to-be-released 3D films. With that in mind, let's toss to the clip right when the water comes down and they're about to be totally underwater and have to find their way out. This is about as action-gripping as Sanctum gets. Take a look. Welcome back. Ross has graced us with his presence as we are kind of in the tail end of talking about Oscars. Now, I think the Oscars discussion, for the most part, has pretty much been said and done.
At least by us,
all
we
the
had
lists.
like a 20-minute discussion the other day.
Yes, and which is all good and fun. So we thought we would just talk about primarily what we would consider the two front runners, the neck connectors, for this year's Best Picture film. And that would be narrowed down to The Social Network and The King's Speech. So instead of me saying which one I would really want, I'm going to just give my particular reasons of why I don't see The King's Speech as being one nominated for 12 Academy Awards, but walking away with the Best Picture. Let me say, first of all, that I'm just glad that it, too, wasn't shot in 3D. It's a very good film. Technically, sometimes a little bit boring for me. Nothing groundbreaking about this. The acting is great, very straightforward. There are times when there are moments in the film where it's very touching. Nothing I felt that really resonated with me long after the film, though. I don't feel it took any chances. It's almost a, lack of a better word, a sterile type of a film. It was short of a very well-acted play. It's a good film when it comes to discipline and technique regarding how to shoot a conventional film with pretty much little to no flaws. but it just seems to be missing some sparks, some sense of color to it. But there are moments here and there even that kind of lag. But it does seem fitting for the story that they are telling. But the big question, is it worth a Best Picture? Not in my opinion. My vote is still going to go for The Social Network. Ross.
That lagged, I'll tell you. Social Network over King's Speech. I hate to agree with you, because I'd much rather argue. But, I mean, I kind of feel the same way. I mean, The King's Speech is kind of a one-note story, in my opinion. It's about this prince who eventually becomes a king, who has a very bad stammer, and he's working the whole movie to correct the stammer, and he has to, when he becomes king, has to lead his country into World War II. And, I mean, yeah, it's a very triumphant moment. It's, very... it's a very inspirational moment at the end, but it's honestly like the last 5 minutes of the movie. So what we were talking about, before we were shooting this was, it takes you 2 hours, an hour and 50 minutes to get up to that point, and the rest of the movie is just kind of like, okay, he's working with this dialect coach to try to correct this thing, and there's really not a whole lot of meat to the story there. I mean, it's nice to see him develop this bond, this friendship with this guy, but other than that, I think The Social Network's a movie that just never bores you the entire time. I mean, it's just fast-paced. The dialogue comes at you at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and the acting's phenomenal. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with The Social Network. The King's Speech drags a little bit. It's not a movie, like you said. It doesn't really stick with you afterwards. I say Social Network, although I think we can disagree on this. I think The King's Speech will win, just because of the momentum it's picked up from the Guild Awards and everything.
Okay.
And you said you don't think The King's Speech will win. Why don't?
Well, The King's Speech is not necessarily an island unto itself. There have been many films that have garnered a number of awards and been lucky enough to walk away with one or two. So to win a number of awards and that be the precedent of it.
Well, I mean, Benjamin Button comes to mind when I think of that. It was nominated for 13 a couple years ago.
And how many did it walk away with?
It walked away with 3, all in like visual effects, but it didn't win all those Guild Awards that The King's Speech did. It's not winning. It's not getting this much attention.
That's why I don't put all my laurels and set a precedent for every single award show saying, well, it won this and it won this. And it won, because
last year, The Hurt Locker won everything, and The Hurt Locker won Best Picture.
Well, you can go through the history of films and see how it did.
Slumdog Millionaire won all the Guild Awards 2 years ago, won Best Picture.
Does it make it a Best Picture movie?
No, that's what I'm saying. I said before that King's Speech I don't see personally as a Best Picture movie, but it'll probably win just because a lot of the people that are voting in the Academy are the Guild.
Then I will set myself as a strong minority in my thinking, the fact that I feel it will win. I don't feel...
You think Social Network will win?
I think The Social Network will win. I think it has all the components to make it one of the best films, and that's part of what I think contributes to The King's Speech, is the fact that last year we didn't really have any blow-me-away movies. There was not one movie that set it apart that people are still talking about saying, wow, wasn't it great in all these different arenas. The King's Speech comes out, and as kind of the movie to bookend the year out practically, it was really good.
Yeah.
It was flawless. The fact that it wasn't lame almost speaks volumes for what we've been exposed to for the whole past year. And the fact that, well, it wasn't lame, it had all these other things going for it. And I felt that because of it, if it had some much stronger contenders throughout the year, I don't think there would be much as discussion as we're having about it.
Well, it's something I want to see again just to try to get a different perspective on it, because I didn't have that high of an opinion of it the first time I saw it. But I think Black Swan is better. I think Inception is better. I like Toy Story 3 better.
And you know what? Unfortunately, out of those films are fitted for an isolated audience.
Yeah.
And I'll say this again, is the fact that I think one of the biggest things that marks the difference between The Social Network and The King's Speech is the fact that The King's Speech, and I'm not going to deny it, has some key moments in the film.
Oh, yeah.
There are some emotional moments in the film. There are films that have universal sense of connections. You can identify it. The scenes where he's sitting there talking about his father and how his father was, and you can kind of connect to that. You can understand all these contributing factors that led to his speech impediment and his lack of being able to do something that is a primary objective of his job to do. And it's not something that he sought after or asked for.
Yeah.
It's all of a sudden the spotlight is on him, and he's not able to do it. So now basically we're going to have a 2-hour window to watch how he gets there.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the problem I had with it. Those moments are kind of too far in between. I mean, a lot of it is just trying to correct the stammer, and I like when it's going into his father and his brother, and all, you know, their family difficulties and struggles and everything, but too much of it concentrates on his stammer, and it's like, okay, I understand, I get it. It's a big problem for him. But
I think that if and I'll use an example. I think if they had a MySpace movie that came out, I don't think it would have been, even though, you know, everybody knows
you
what
do know
MySpace
there was
is.
a Facebook movie that came out, right?
Yes, and that's my point, is the fact that everybody is still on Facebook. Everybody's still on a daily basis on it. It's
The
still
thing
an
about
active
social network
medium.
is it has so many layers to the story.
And just by
and
chance,
that's what I
and
like.
this is a conversation we've had earlier too, is the fact that it could have been a lame movie.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard. I mean, with any good story, you could make it a terrible movie.
Look at the writer and director you have. I mean,
I think that it lucked out with all the components that it had to it to make it such a good movie. I don't know about how many times have you watched Social Network?
3 and like a quarter.
See, and I've watched it at least twice. To me, the idea of sitting down and watch it again would seem exciting.
Yeah.
And it's a heavily dialogue-driven film. Not one of those kinds of movies that people sit down and want to spend 2 hours saying, I just watched this, give it a day or so, I might be interested to watch it again. But there's something to be said about the pacing of that film, just what the subject is like. And if I'm in a minority about whether it's going to win or not, I don't mind come Monday morning after the Oscars are over and it having not won Best Picture. I still believe that it should. And if King's Speech walks away with it, it wouldn't be the first year that I've been disappointed by a film having
My
done
gut
it.
kind of tells me that The Social Network will win, but I think logic tells me that The King's Speech will win. Regardless, though, I think David Fincher will win Best Director. I think they give David Fincher Best Director for Social Network, and I think The King's Speech wins. So I think this will be the first year in a long time that the Director and Picture Oscars have gone to different
I almost want you to pay attention to when and if ideally Fincher wins the Oscar, and they come to the very last category, which is the Best Picture, and if The Social Network is not mentioned, hear the crowd response in that theater when that happens.
Okay.
I would listen to it.
It's won the Screen Actors Guild, Producers Guild, Directors Guild awards. I think King's Speech has the momentum. I mean, it's more traditional Oscar fare.
Well, I can tell you too, not a lot of people. There's still a lot of people who have not seen the King's Speech, and I think comparatively,
it's been playing nationwide for like 3 weeks.
I know, but I still think a lot of people have seen Social Network at least more than once.
Yeah, but it came out a while ago. That also hurts it. That hurts a lot of movies when it comes out months before the Oscars. King's Speech just came out in December. It's still playing in theaters right now, so that helps it out a lot.
So we'll see. You know, we have just a number of days till it happens. So the race continues, I guess. So we'll see. The King's Speech versus The Social Network.
It's not the end of the world either way. But it's fun to talk about.
That's true. Well, next week we're going to be talking about Liam Neeson's new film,
Unknown.
What was the film I said it reminded me of?
Taken.
Let's see how much he's staying in this genre or not. I'm looking forward to seeing this movie. I love Liam Neeson. I think he's great.
Looks like a very fast-paced, good mystery.
We'll see how this film is. Well, until next week, for Ross Martin, I'm your host, Scott Birmingham, and this is For Your Review.